Well, I mean, honestly, okay, equinox, which is a prime time for sacrifice making by occult members. And I have to preface this very importantly by saying none of this has anything to do with the Baha'i faith. It is very possible for agents, bad actors, to infiltrate any movement, to interfere with any witnesses, particularly if those witnesses are not even aware for decades, until decades after the crime, who exactly they were involved with. And those secret services all say serve the same master, whether you want to call them Five Eyes or by any other name, they all serve the same entity at the end of the day. And I wanted to talk about this because I often think, with regards to the attempted assassination that happened on the June equinox last year, why me in particular? Why? What is particular about my experiences and my story, if I had the capacity to sit down and write it, that stands out or is particular from other witness stories? What might they not be able to highlight quite so clearly? And the answer to that is collusion in medicine, collusion through the medical field. Like I said, you can infiltrate any organization, you can infiltrate any group. That's why this has nothing to do with the Baha'i faith. However, a lot of religious movements are entirely agent operatives from start to finish. Some groups, the infiltration and the corruption has been going on for so many hundreds of years that they themselves, while they might be considered established traditions or established religions, are almost exclusively agency run in terms of the internal operations. Baha'i faith has some the mechanisms of action to try to prevent that. And while the numbers remain small, in fact, in this country, UK, been decreasing after I think a surge of people heard about it and joined in the 70s and 80s. Most of those people have, one way or another, um, a lot of those people, not all, haven't been able to stick around. There was definitely um, ways of building your reputation within a group so that nobody would suspect you. And if your religious teachings are that estrangement is one of the biggest enemies, and gossip as well, you can utilize that within a group. You can exploit those things within a group. If you are the type of person who no one would ever suspect of telling lies, and there are many white lies. Like, it doesn't have to be about person's reputation. You could simply say that you phoned a person when you didn't. And what else could you say then? Could you say what was said on the call? Okay, so you get the idea. When it comes to medicine, well, when it comes to actually the capacity to to write an autobiography, I have several things holding me back. This is why, I'll be honest with you, I thought the attempted assassination last year, which if I died, it just would have been put up to me having taken an overdose. Like, I really don't think anyone would have particularly looked into it. I've taken two massive opiate overdoses in my life. I've been taking opiates for such a long time. They either didn't get enough into me, or it just wasn't enough. Okay. Um, but why me? Well, medicine. The reasons why I thought it was ridiculous is I have so much arthritis in my sacrum. I sit, my mind goes, gone, like almost like I'm having a fucking absence. Okay. So I don't think there is much threat of me writing out my story, and I will need corroboration of some sort. I will need to get my medical files, and I don't have the resources around me to cope with that kind of stress. All right. And secondly, it's my story. It's not for sale. Okay. That's between me and Allah. Okay, and I use the Arabic word for God. Okay, it's between me and God. Okay, because there can only be one God. Okay, I know there's these controversies in Islam. They should come out and say that Aisha was 19, but this is the thing we have going on with religion and politics. Okay, but some religious movements, including new religious movements, are almost entirely CIA operatives. There is a movie out by Journeyman Pictures. It's called Praying for Armageddon. I recommend you spend the £3 or £4 or dollars to watch that movie. I myself was sucked into this charismatic evangelical thing at 18, 19. Prior to that, I didn't know that there was a name for sex outside of marriage, aka fornication. There were so many people having sex with me and around me from very, very young. I didn't even know it was like you need a license. Okay. But that group, mental. Okay. Definitely an operation. Some church that sprung up in Stratford upon Avon and doing the usual classic things that they do in those situations, getting everybody in the room to pray in tongues, which is not what the Bible says not to do that. The Bible says just have one person praying in tongues and have two people there in a church setting and have two people there to interpret. So, you know, when your church is meeting in a hotel, in a room in a busy hotel in Stratford on Avon, and you have everyone, like 100 or so people, and they're all praying in tongues at once. Okay, that's not a very stable environment. Having people, when you arrive in that church on a Sunday and you've got a couple of women on the floor just weeping and weeping in tears, and that's a regular thing, it's not a stable environment. When you have pastors telling you that everyone in your family is going to hell unless you can share with them the good news of Jesus Christ, which you've only just been introduced to yourself, okay, and have a genuine like spiritual experience through encountering the word, okay. But it comes with a caveat, which is I have to tell all my friends and family, I have to talk about Jesus because they're going to hell. And the breaking point in this relationship between me and these people, not to mention that my best friend, who was my neighbor, came to this church and they laid hands on him and tried to push him to the floor to get a demonstration of him being slain in the spirit. Let me tell you, I believe the correct way to fall in front of God is probably face first. Is when I brought up Islam with these pastors of this charismatic church, which, by the way, the leaders had gone to Bible school together. They were a married couple, and when they graduated, they told the people whose the Bible organization, the Bible school that they went to, that they wanted to plant a church in Stratford upon Avon based upon an obscure interpretation of a Bible verse. And I think this is largely the problem with a lot of these books, is people giving interpretations, which was something about being like east of the river or something. So they told the leaders of their Bible college, who had recommended one course of action, that actually what they wanted to do was plant this church in Stratford upon Avon based upon where they went to Bible school, was like, trying to think, like similar area, okay, not too far away. So they go to, against the better wishes of the Bible school, they go to plant this church in Stratford upon Avon. So happens at the same time, my mum had employed someone from South Africa to work with the horses, because my mum bred horses after she divorced my dad for multiple counts of adultery, including the 17-year-old that went on to be my stepmum. My mum moved after a long time later. She moved to Hertfordshire, to near Nebworth, Rabley Heath, and then she moved to Warwickshire, okay? And then I was working for her, but then I went to hospital with drug-induced psychosis, speed and taking lots of speed, and physical exhaustion from having undiagnosed health problems, and smoking weed, not good combination, and severely traumatized. So after that, my mum needed to employ somebody, and she employed somebody from South Africa who had a really similar story to me, like by chance almost. Like, I'm not pointing the finger at her at all. She'd had a drug-induced psychosis. She had then had her dad was like a she got involved in the new charismatic movement. Okay, so when she came over to work for my mum, I was living with my mum as well at that time, and I said, "Could you read the Bible to me?" Because she had a copy and I didn't, and it was in that I gave my offered up my heart and soul to God, okay, to Jesus or whatever. I mean, don't want to get into the semantics of literal semantics of religion here. Just gave my heart to God, and I even heard a word behind me saying, "This is the path, walk in it." Okay, but um, the church was extremely unstable that I ended up being part of, and really accentuated mental health problems. It's quite a lot of beeping outside. Look, let me just sit down for a minute 'cause and take these shoes off. Um, I just want to talk about a period actually where I I had severe, like, reoccurring sinus infections from infancy. I mean, 3 and under. Okay. Some of the only people that can corroborate this stuff is family members like my mum, who, for example, told me when I was just 2 years of age, I was on an aeroplane with her and I wouldn't stop screaming. Okay. I wouldn't stop screaming. The reason for that was my sinuses were so fucked that the pressure on the plane, the aeroplane was way, way too much. And then by the age of 10, I'd already had so many reoccurring ENT infections and reoccurring tonsillitis that at 10 or 11, I had my tonsils removed. And at the same time, I had some rhinoplasty thing where my sinuses were drained. I was 11 at the most. The surgeon, who had like plenty, wasn't a new surgeon, plenty of years of experience, told my mum that the results of that sinus draining were the worst he'd ever seen from an 11-year-old girl. Later on, I missed so much school from repeated infections. And you've got to remember, 10 or 11, I hadn't started smoking. Or if I tried one, I tried a couple. I wasn't a smoker at that age. It didn't take long for me to pick that up. And after that, it was just always attributed to that. But even as a smoker, to be bringing stuff off my chest constantly is something that you would see in a smoker who's now my age, in their 40s, approaching their 50s. And this has always been the case. So by the time I'm like middle school, I've already missed so much school from reoccurring infections, chronic fatigue. I believe I was already taking a multivitamin at that point, you know, for my health, which contained folic acid, which I couldn't cope with. So by the time I'm like 19, I've already been diagnosed with chronic sinusitis and chronic bronchitis twice. It's already on my records by the age of 14, repeated again at the age of 19. Then I moved to Coventry, okay? I moved to an area called Wood End, and that doctor's surgery behind my back changes my notes. So they no longer say chronic bronchitis and chronic sinusitis. They say seasonal asthma. I don't have asthma. Right now, I could really do with some antibiotics. I've been taking this for a very long time. I've been taking oregano oil for a very long time at the moment. Taking these by the 3x5. So the fact that anybody is just able to effectively alter what is written in my notes is what I'm trying to talk about. That is a collusion. There's a collusion. Because these entities that say that they have people, they have people everywhere. Like I said, whoever it is that they're told that they are serving, they are all serving the same entity. That's a conglomerate called Satan, made up of many individual devils. You find God now. It's not me. Got me some banging coconut oil infused with cannabis, not for sale. Just going to use them myself. And how is it that all the guys that sell weed to the smokers, they don't seem to get busted anymore? Good, okay. But the guys that grow it and make oils, they keep getting investigated. Strange. So look, I think it's a joke that they make attempts on my life. They've been doing this since I was with Frank. Frank, I like to think. So, okay, the poor kid, he's witnessed violence, he's taken plenty of LSD, he starts hearing voices, he's creative, so, he explores it, but over time, these voices just harass him with saying nasty things about his girlfriend until the point where he tried to take my life in January 2008 when I'd just not long been out of rehab for alcoholism caused primarily, really, by the fact that my dad would basically refuse to allow me to stop drinking alcohol. My dad, who was dead before and is dead again, thought that it was a brilliant idea for his children to drink alcohol with him because then we wouldn't become alcoholics because we would know how to drink. Okay, so when I wanted to quit alcohol at like 17, that didn't go down very well. Okay, trust me, like I was having a glass of wine poured for me. I was being shamed for saying that I wanted to clean up my life, okay? To get clean, like there's so much more awareness around this nowadays, like for people to aspire to not drink alcohol, right? But my dad was just like, that is not happening. And so then aided and abetted by risperidone, which causes akathisia, and the main antidote against akathisia is specifically red wine. That's from a medical textbook that came out in 2000. I have a link for it actually on my community page if it's still visible on there. But I want to talk about cystic fibrosis because I'm not diagnosed with cystic fibrosis. But I will say that there are over 2,000 different types due to the way that it's inherited and the way that you inherit from each parent and the possible combinations of inheriting from each parent leads to over 2,000 different types. And some are very much more serious than others. And because we have antibiotics, we have a lot less death associated with cystic fibrosis. But we also had a long period where it's been underdiagnosed, whether in a white population or a non-white population. And then you have an increase in flu deaths that are not attributable to cystic fibrosis, they're attributable to the flu. Then we have a very dangerous condition known as the flu, which we need a vaccine for. And then we start introducing screening for cystic fibrosis on newborns in the UK in 2017 and about 10 years earlier in the USA. And then we have a reduction in flu deaths, which we can attribute to the flu vaccine. Okay. But even to the point when I was in a psychiatric unit a few years ago now, and the doctor, he's not a doctor, told his junior doctors to independently give me a diagnosis. And what part of that, they were supposed to access my medical records from like prior to whenever, and it was because I got a psychiatric record from 1998, and I was told by that doctor with a smile on his face, because they're always smiling when they're happy, is that they don't have my notes anymore, just gone. Yeah. Okay, because obviously, if I believe that I have cystic fibrosis, I'm fucking crazy attention seeker, aren't I? But I don't even have COPD. I don't even have chronic sinusitis and bronchitis. I have seasonal asthma, don't I? Just all seasons. All right, so that's one. We're coming up to an equinox. We love to do sacrifices around the equinox. Summer equinox last year was the 20th of June. That's when they went in with me. So let's just stay alive long enough to say that there is collusion in medicine, okay, and I'm not the only one that knows that, Okay, so, but I'm really unlikely to be able to sit down and tell my story at any point. So ease off with the assassination attempts. Thank you. Just trying to write my poetry. And it's getting better since I got a writing partner and just generally started reading what other people were doing on Reddit. And so, just I guess I might be a dangerous person to know. um, let's read some comments. False prophets. Yeah, pharmakeia. In the description, there is a from shit, man. I actually am quite hot. I want to take my coat off. I can't. In the description is a quote from Book of Revelation, and then there is an explanation about how that word sorcery was taken from the Greek word for pharmakeia. And they say, oh, we have a mental health crisis, but simply because the government has removed so much funding from public services that if you think your child needs mental health support and you don't have time to do no fucking research into medicine at all, you just put them in a queue and so we can go, oh, we got crisis. No, we have services that are really inadequate, and we have taken all the money, or it money from natural medicines, the whole propagation of natural medicine, okay, and its education and the research that would be really good by now if it had any government funding, but it doesn't. And also, little drugs like cocaine that are illegal in the south, from the South of America, and the North has been busy creating lots of antidepressants. We could have had a good controlled supply of cocaine rather than the propagation for it to go up everyone's noses. Okay, so, but the comments say by grace we are saved. Indeed. Hello, boys. Hello, Mossy Boy 44. Hello, DJ Mickey K1. Thank you for not being assholes. Sometimes people comment on my stuff, and praise the Lord. That's all I'll say. I'm going to go. I hope this was all right. Have a nice time. Oh, it's the Yamiha right now. We're in the days outside of time. And then tomorrow it goes into Baha'i fast, which is always the same place in the calendar. It's basically March, like March 1st to 19th or 20th. And I think what I need to do, this is my plan. Well, I'm exempted from fasting because obligatory fasting, but I don't know. I think I will do water fast. I have lots of cannabis oil, so I will still be taking calories in my oil, and but I mean I could do with losing some excess fat, and I have plenty of salts to add to my water. I have a water distiller. Those are all things you should look into. If it's not medical advice, it's just I'm saying from my experience. If anyone is able to talk about how bad neuroleptic, aka antipsychotic drugs are, they have tried. I mean, because I thought at one point maybe I'm not writing this because people are not ready. No, I've been on X. Like plenty of people are aware. Like psychiatry is fucking shit because its drugs are so shit. Okay, you take care too. Love ya. Oh fuck, I don't even know how to turn this off. Okay. No, for real. Okay, God bless you all. Love. I'm sweating away in my jacket, honestly. Bye.